Hello and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're here for a preview show and we're looking forward to the biggest day of the year. It's the Senior Championship final taking place on Sunday at 3 o'clock in the athletic grounds. We're going to see Crossmaglen try to get back their title that they lost to Mohary last season. And we're going to see Clann Eireann as well, trying to get their first championship title in 58 years. It's 53 since they last made the final, so no matter what happens on Sunday, this is a historic day for Clann Eireann. I'm joined by Stephen Cusack, who was part of the Mohary team who won the championship last year and defeated Crossmaglen in the final. And Stephen, you're very welcome back on, and we're going to look at all the possible outcomes, everything that could possibly happen on Sunday. And then later on, we're going to hear from Peter Nugent as well. He's going to join us to discuss the possible matchups and tactics that we might see from both teams. Brian McClelland's also going to be on with us later, and he's going to give us some match analysis that we can expect heading into the game. To start off, Stephen, we'll hone in obviously on the two teams. Their paths to the final have been somewhat different. Crossmaglen, they're coming in having played the most games this year, having come from the preliminary round. They beat Clann Eireann in the first round. Probably looking at it, having played more games, maybe the harder route. But when you dig down into it more, they've actually only played one Division 1A team, and that was Cleavey in the quarterfinal. So I'm not going to say easy games against 1B teams. I wouldn't disrespect them. Obviously, Clann Eireann being a Division 1B team, but possibly an easier route than you would first expect from Crossmaglen.
Yeah, just with the pedigree of them teams that played over the last, over the preliminary round, quarterfinal, semi-final, there wouldn't be teams that have really been in the business end of the championship thus far, but they are teams that people are talking about the country that have a championship in them in the next 5-6 years. The likes of Clann Eireann, who came out intermediate football, doing very well under Martian, and he's got them playing well. It was a competitive game. They ended up only winning with 2 points, and Clann Eireann did cause them some problems up until about the 40th minute, and then Cross just went away from them a wee bit. So it was a competitive game. Madden, everybody was saying Madden had a good chance of beating Cross too. It wasn't just a game that they were going to show up and just overrule Madden. Ed again, competitive up to 40 minutes, and Cross just finished strongly again. And exactly the same in the quarterfinal against Cleavey. People were giving Cleavey a very good chance of maybe overturning Cross again. And it was competitive up to about 50 minutes. Then the last 10 minutes, Cross maybe got 6 or 7 scores. So yeah, it's been on paper probably looked easier draws because there were a couple of 1B teams, but definitely competitive games, and probably have made Crossmaglen probably tougher in the championship coming through, and then Silverbridge in the semi-final. It was just a horrible night to play football, and just didn't turn out well for Silverbridge. Cross has handled the occasion better. So on paper, yes, they played 3 1B teams and 1 1A team, but they've definitely they've been competitive games up to this route, like for them, So I think Cross will be happy enough with the work they've put in so far,
And have we seen Cross get better each game, Stephen? I think probably their best performance came against Madden, was probably their most complete performance and possibly their toughest test as well this year. I know Cleavey were maybe closer in the last 15 or 20 minutes, but Madden really posed serious questions of Crossmaglen. And have we seen them getting better each game? And maybe we'll touch on their strengths as well. How have they got better in every game, and how have they got to the decider?
It's kind of hard going into the championship. If you're confident enough in the championship and you're starting out at the start of the year to win one, it's hard to pick for the first round, second round, semi-final, final. So you're kind of have the confidence in your own ability of the team. You kind of want to pick around the semi-final stage. So maybe Cross at the start against Clann Eireann, they weren't maybe at their full fitness. They probably did what they had to do through the game. I know Oisin and Comiskey, when he came out of the bench, maybe with 10 minutes left, just maybe they had to come out of the bench just to get them over the line. Against Madden, as you say, a really competitive game. Madden could have got 2 or 3 goal chances, or could have got 2 or 3 goals in the first 5-10 minutes. Only took one of them. They could win, maybe it's a different story, but Madden definitely gave Crossmaglen a really good competitive match that day, and maybe a wee bit more experience in the Madden team that night would have got them over the line. But as you said, Cross have slowly but surely got better as the rounds have went on, and they're probably just maybe coming in peaking for the final here, so they'll be happy enough to where they're at. How have they got better? They probably just got fitter as the games went on, the more games you played. So naturally you are going to get better, you're going to look at it a bit sharper. But yeah, they're happy enough where they are, I'd say, so far, you know.
Clann Eireann, they've probably, again on paper, had a tougher journey to the final. They've overcome Mahary and Ballymacnabb, who have been the two most competitive teams with Crossmaglen in the championship in recent years. Ballymacnabb reaching 2 finals in 18 and 19, and Mahary obviously beating Cross last year. Clann Eireann have done it the hard way. They've earned the right to be in the final and to be the #1 contender now at this stage. They are bound to be happy with what they have done this year, and I hope that they're not just going to be happy in a final, Stephen, and I'm sure that they won't be. They'll want to push on now and win it.
Yeah, if you probably said to Clann Eireann at the start of the year, what's your goals for the year? We'd definitely get out of 1B, probably a championship final. But now they're in the final, as you say, you just don't be happy enough to get there. But on the way they come to the championship, the Greens game, probably a wee bit different to what they played the rest of the year. They went man-to-man that day, as I said before. They got over pretty handily enough. But then they played us in the quarter-final. Really close game. Stayed with us the whole way through the game. And only went in front maybe the 29th, 30th minute. But deservedly got through that game. Their youth and their pace that they finished the game off, we couldn't live with it. And probably the same in the semi-final against Ballymacnabb. Started off really well, and Ballymacnabb got themselves back in the game. When we came down to the end of the game, with 5 minutes left, you just seen Clann Eireann started rolling the bench again, started getting the fresh legs on, and finished the game off pretty strongly. So they've definitely earned their place in the final here, and they've done it playing a really, I wouldn't say attacking brand of football, but the kind of their own brand of football that they've been playing all year, and it's got them where they're at. So we're playing.
And you mentioned pace there, Stephen. Is that their biggest strength, that pace, and probably the youth on their side as well?
Yeah, pace definitely one of their strengths, but I was actually looking at it there the other day. There's actually like 12, 13 different scorers throughout their team. So when you have that many scorers in your team, you're not really relying on 1, 2 men to score maybe not 6, 7 a game. The workload's getting shared throughout the team, so that's definitely one of their strengths. Especially who's it, their keeper? Owen Mulholland, is it their keeper?
Mulholland, yeah.
Coming out, he joins the attack. He's like an extra player coming out there. He's an outlet for defence. You've seen him carrying the ball the field against Ballymacnabb a couple of times. He actually could have had a couple of shots, but fair play to him, he had the head and the shoulders to pop it off to one of the forwards, you know. So even having him in your team coming out as an extra player is a massive plus to you, and his kickouts too. Their energy, and as you said, they've 50 players on their squad to choose from. If one player in the day is not having a good game, Tommy can just roll another player on who's exactly the same, and having that is massive to any team, you know what I mean? So the team's never weakened in any way from the first minute to the last minute, you know.
And we've spoke about each side's strengths, and I suppose we'll speak on their weaknesses as well, Stephen. For Clann Eireann, is it too easy to say that an experience is a weakness? Obviously leading in, it's been such a long time since they played in a final, but these boys have all played in finals in underage and minor, under 21. So is that too easy to say that that's going to be a weakness?
It's, as you said, you started the podcast. There's 53 years since the last final. I can imagine around that club at the minute, you know, people around there maybe who was around at that time talking to the younger ones. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing in a way. It can put pressure on younger players. It all depends on where they handle that occasion on the day, and you'll not know until you're walking behind that ball and that first ball's through up how them boys handle that occasion. They could thrive in it, or they could just fall into a shell. But playing minor finals, under 21 finals isn't the same thing as senior final. All eyes are on you on that day. The whole county's watching, and the whole officers watching. So it's definitely a bigger occasion, but there's nothing to fear, and they've got their merit. So they definitely have a live chance of bringing that cup back around, you know.
And in terms of a weakness for Crossmaglen, I suppose it's easier said than done to try to talk about a weakness in that Crossmaglen team. Is there any standout ones that you can notice, Stephen, or maybe that you would have highlighted last year to use against them? I know that, as I say, that's a hard question to ask you.
Well, looking at their weaknesses, you have to say that how we got our goals last year in that final. If you run across the pace, they commit so much to the attack. That's the way they play. But this year they have tightened up a wee bit. They leave Aaron back sweeping full time. That leaves one of the Clann Eireann by 3, so it does. But definitely getting a high ball into that back line, testing them. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But you don't want to be questioning yourself after the match. You wish I would have done this. You have to put somebody in there. You have to test Tiernan, goalkeeper, and whoever's going to be doing full back early. Turbo in there is a good target man, but even if TK was in there for 5-10 minutes, he's more aggressive in there. He's probably better in the air, and I would definitely throw him in there just for a couple of balls to see what they got, to see if he can enjoy it. If he can enjoy it, they can just resort back to what they've been doing all year, running the ball. But you definitely have to try these things. Cross and be ready for Clann Eireann and nothing. It's what they've been doing in the previous 3 championship games. So Cross will have the homework done, so they need to kind of vary out their attack out a wee bit different, because if you keep running the ball down Cross are a very physical team. Ollie's refereeing the match on Sunday, so they're probably going to let it get away a wee bit. So they definitely need to vary their attack a wee bit, but definitely a weakness in the cross-ball backline. Until teams keep doing that and keep getting goals, even in the Madden game, the ball in a couple of times, and they got success. So it's definitely something Clann Eireann should be looking at on Sunday, you know.
With all the interesting matchups and all the tactical switches, I've brought Peter Nugent and he's going to talk us through all the matchups that we're going to see, and maybe a few surprise changes to the Crossmaglen lineup that we haven't seen this year. So we'll hear from Peter now, and we'll go through all the matchups for Sunday's game. Peter, thanks very much for joining us. And we're going to look at the matchups, the possible matchups that we're going to see on Sunday between Crossmaglen and Clann Eireann. Obviously, this is all guesswork, Peter. We have, I was going to say we've no idea. We might have a wee bit of an idea of what's going to happen, and we'll discuss that. All the matchups that's going to happen in the Cross defence, the Clann Eireann defence, in around the middle of the field, and all the key battles that we're going to see. Starting with the Crossmaglen team, Peter, based on the last few games, we've seen a regular team starting in the quarterfinal and the semi-final, but you feel there's going to be maybe a surprise package in this Crossmaglen starting team, and it's something that it is likely that we could see it.
Yeah, well, Sean, I just think Cross have been maybe holding a bit of a wild card back so far in the championship. In that, I mean, Callum Comiskey's been. It's not that long ago Callum Comiskey was starting for Armagh in league and championship in 2020, and having a big say in things, and they've been carefully introducing him, it looks like, with sort of 20-25 minutes to go in every game so far this year. So there's probably to our knowledge, there's probably no outright reason for suggesting that, you know, he wouldn't be good enough to start in our team ordinarily. So has it been a carefully hatched plan all along to hold him in reserve and then change the team up in the final? I think he could possibly slot in a number 6. And that in turn would then allow them to move James Morgan back to pick up Connor Turbot. And that's not to say that Morgan hasn't been highly impressive playing at number 6 in this season in the championship, but I think it's something that they'll probably give a lot of careful consideration to. You know, does moving Comiskey in the 6 really weaken him that much? I don't think it does. I think he plays the game with a lot of composure. He typically, as a cross player, he look to move the ball off the boot nice and early, and he'll be able to provide a good line of supply. So I think that's something that they could possibly be planning for.
So we'll take a deeper look at the Crossmaglen defence in a moment. In terms of Clann Eireann's starting team, I don't think we're going to see any surprises or any changes perhaps positionally, but in terms of the starting 15, it's going to be the same that started against Mahary and against Ballymacnabb. You're going to have they're going to go by the same programme, only Dan McCarthy is going to come in for Rory McDonald. And you'd imagine McDonald and Jack Conlon again are going to be the go-to subs in that forward line. I don't think we're going to see anything else, Peter, other than Dan McCarthy coming in, possibly wearing the number 17 jersey.
Yeah, the thing about Clann Eireann is that the spine of their team, Sean, has served them very well in the championship to date. From Mulholland right through to Haffern and McCambridge, who, I suppose we'll get into where we think that they might play between 3 and 6. Connor Bell, Conor McConville, Tiernan Kelly, Connor Turbot. That's been their spine, of course, with Ryan Henderson and Dackie Leatham also having really big inputs there at times down the centre of the team. So the best thing for Clann Eireann is that they've a really settled team. The substitutes that come in know their jobs. It's a settled, probably 19 or 20 players. And everybody at the minute is doing their job and doing it very well. So I think that's, consistency in team selection when people are doing their job breeds improved performance, really. And you can see the confidence in their game. Everybody knows what their jobs is. They're playing with that bit of freedom to a degree. They move the ball so well off the shoulder, and their team's loaded with pace. So, they'll be very confident, I'm sure, going in with hopefully they picked up, no injury news or anything like that there. And if they can get that team out on the field again, there will be positional changes, we imagine, but the core of the main 15 that served them so well so far will hopefully take the field.
We're going to look at some of them positional changes, Peter, because we're going to start with the Clann Eireann defence. Obviously, we'll have Mulholland in goal. You talked about their strong spine. We have number 3, Barry Cambridge, and number 6, Shea Heffron, but they tend to switch positions. We're possibly going to see Shea Heffron starting in fullback with McCambridge going out to centre halfback. If that happens from the throw-in, you'd imagine Shea Heffron's going to pick up Cian McConville, who's the danger man inside. But Crossmaglen do like to bring one of the O'Neills in, and at any stage of the game, you could have either Rain or Oisín drifting in. We'd imagine that if and when that happens, it's going to be Heffron picking him up, and possibly Conan O'Carroll switching to Cian McConville. And at the throw-in again, we're going to see McCambridge line out at centre half-back, and he's going to go toe-to-toe with Oisín O'Neill.
Yeah, and that for me, Sean, would give Clann Eireann the best balance, I feel. Twofold, really. You look at the performance Shea gave against Ballymacnabb, and Jack Rugan's hard contained on any given day, never mind coming to the business end of the championship. And Shea really put in a near faultless performance against them. Just anything that was there to be contested, he probably shaded the battle overall. Jack kicked a couple of brilliant scores, but Shea had a lot of the work done there to force him into difficult positions. And I just think that Shea at 3 gives Clann Eireann so much solidity. He's obviously probably their sort of spiritual leader in the team as well. He communicates very well. He has all the anticipation, and he has that outright burst of speed as well. That as well as mixing it physically. So for me, they probably will start with Shea at 3, and that's also offset by probably Barry McCambridge's performance against Ballymacnabb as well, where he sort of cut loose in that first 15-20 minutes. Got forward, kicked scores, kicked the goal. Probably had a hand in another couple of attacks that he had direct involvements in setting up scores. So Barry's running power from back in the field will give Cross a lot to think about, and I think Clann Eireann will be doing very well to make sure that Barry McCambridge isn't given like a curtailed role on Sunday, because if he gets a chance, he can really certainly take the game to Cross.
And some of our other matchups that we're likely to see, Conan O'Carroll, as we said, he's likely to move on to Cian McConville. Should one of the O'Neills come in, and Heffron will go to them. But he's going to probably start on Dara O'Callaghan. We're going to see Adam Kelly at wing half-back picking up Tony Kiernan, and Sean McCarthy possibly on Paddy Studdard. And we're talking about Studdard. We're going to talk about him more probably when we come to the Crossmaglen defence. He has been playing in that full back line all year, but as I said, with Comiskey coming back in, that sort of strengthens the Crossmaglen defence, and Studdard will possibly play in the forward line. Dackie Latham, Peter, he seems to be the go-to sweeper for Clann Eireann, with Ryan Henderson often coming back as well as a +1 or more in a quarterback role. We can talk about Henderson now on probably when we move on to the Clann Eireann forward line, but Dackie Latham, he's going to possibly pick up Kieran Finnegan from the start, but he's the one that Clann Eireann's going to want to get free.
Yeah, I think Dackie would be seen as their best ball player, probably out of the defence. And I know any time that they play a team that has offered them up that situation of playing with 4 or 5 forwards up and dropping a couple of players, they'll always look to get Dackie in as that sort of sweeper player, and to get him on as much ball to sort of go through the phases and get them out. So, like, I think we can all accept that's one thing that Cross don't do. They just will outright, they will not play with 4 or 5 forwards, they will play with 6. Their shape in their forward line they'll have their 3 inside forwards tucked right up in high, right up in their starting base will be right inside their own, the Clann Eireann 14, the 2 corner forwards. Then again, O'Callaghan will probably take up positions maybe a metre, 2 metres off the sideline on either side, and they just play with extreme width. So, probably from a Clann Eireann perspective too, when you're playing against a forward line that's that well drilled in that system, and those men know when to come off the touchline when attacks are building. Even if you do go in with a sweeper, say in that situation, because they play with so much width, like a sweeper, his work's cut out because there's so much area to cover. So it will be interesting to see how that unfolds. I do believe probably Leedham will maybe pick up Finnegan, as you say. O'Carr will probably go on and pick up O'Callaghan, who probably has been just slightly coming under the burner, so to speak, so far in the championship. But we know what he's also capable of.
And we'll move on to the middle of the field now. Bale and Morris matching up against each other is probably the obvious one. It's probably one of the most easiest to call throughout all the matchups that we've been working on. One of the hardest to call, Peter, and we're not the only ones that find this hard. Obviously, every team in the county is who's going to pick up Rian O'Neill. Rian O'Neill has played midfield, but we have spoke about him drifting inside. We've sorted that Heffron's going to pick him up if he comes inside. When he plays out the field, we could have McCambridge, Heffron, Sean McCarthy. But me and you've decided Tiernan Kelly is most likely going to be the man to pick him up, and Clann Eireann maybe going to hammer the hammer with TK going on, Rian.
Yeah, as you know, it's definitely difficult to if you're in the opposition camp against Cross, Sean, at any stage. It's a total conundrum about what you do with this fella, because he's just that good, and 9 times out of 10 he's a standout player in any game that he's playing in at this stage. So, and that probably goes at county level as well. So I don't envy Clann Eireann in terms of trying to put a plan together to curtail his influence, because I don't think his influence has been curtailed at all. And any of the Cross Armagh Championship games over the last 3-4 seasons, he's been their absolute heartbeat. And I would say Clann Eireann's best route here is to potentially go with TK on him, and as you say, hammer the hammer, give him plenty to think about going back the other way. The thing that Tiernan Kelly done so well against Ballinagh especially was just that outright aggression in his game. Outright aggression going forward, outright aggression in the tackle. He's probably the one player Clann Eireann have that can go up through the gears and really take it to Rian in that physical aggressive sense and match him over the period of 60 minutes. Definitely be the one standout match up in the game that people would be really intrigued by. So that's where I think it could be a real battle between them two. And that's nothing against Conor McConville. I think he could definitely make hay for Clann Eireann if he's had a great season, but possibly moving up into that sort of number 11 position. And
it's worth noting that Rian O'Neill hasn't had a bad final yet. He was very good against Mahari last year, and he was man of the match in 18 and 19. But I suppose a big thing for Cross, Peter, this year have been, we know about their man-to-man style. They don't like a blanket defence or a sweeper. They'll take a +1 if it's offered up to them, but even at that, they're still willing to go man-to-man. And it's probably their midfield press that has impressed me so much this year, because watching on, there's acres of space in their defence, and you're wondering why teams can't get the ball into the space. It's because of that huge press in the middle of the field. And the O'Neills and Morris and players like that deserve huge credit, because they're the ones putting the pressure on there, doing the hard work. But is there a way around that for Clann Eireann, that the likes of McCambridge from centre half back, Kieran Kelly from midfield, them long bushing runs that them boys can do, breaking through that pressure, and then perhaps when they move up a wee bit, the kicks on and there's space inside?
Well, look, and that's exactly it, Sean. And this will be the slickest team Cross will have played against, this season, in my opinion. Where Clann Eireann's game is now is there's a lot of telepathy built up within their team now, and just how the transition, out of the back, seen it, against ourselves and seen it, especially against Ballymacnabb, I suppose, the stages in the first half. It was chasing shadow stuff. Such was the the movement and the timing of their runs coming through that middle third, and they're doing it with a lot of pace. And like, you'd have to attribute a lot of that to probably Ryan Henderson dropping into them pockets and building the game for them. But also you've got Dan McCarthy, as you alluded to, Barry McCambridge, Sean McCarthy, Adam Kelly. These players are all moving at a rate of knots, really, and they're playing the game with a high level of pace. And then that's when those overlaps happen, they're able to bring in the forwards higher up the field for those sort of coming on the loop efforts, or they're creating overloads coming down the throat of the defence, and that's how these guys are getting slipped in for these top end goals and one-on-ones with the keepers and that. So that's there's no real secret to it from Clann Eireann's point of view. They're playing an attractive, fast brand of football, and they showed it in the second half against Nav as well. When they got the opportunity, they're not afraid to let it go off the boot. Got a number of scores that were just like two kick football, one kick out from the keeper and then one kick out straight in, long ball into the forward line. And they'll get those opportunities again, because as we know, Cross don't go with a nominal sweeper. There'll be times when they get caught pressing Clann Eireann half the field, and if Clann Eireann can get their boot through the ball and get the ball moved in towards the likes of Turbo and McGee and these guys, then that's going to be a viable option too. So I'm impressed that Clann Eireann have more than just brought one game plan to the table here. They can run it really well and really slick, but they're also showing that they've got a good kicking game as well.
We'll move on to the Crossmaglen defence then. We spoke about their man-on-man style. We know that they like to do that. If they're offered a +1, it's usually going to be Aaron Kiernan who's dropping back there. But again, he's not a standout sweeper. Probably Dan McCarthy, we feel, is going to go toe-to-toe with him and not let him drop off, go and man mark him and cause him trouble when Clann Eireann have the ball. We're going Cumasky at centre half back to man mark Conor McConville, and then Paul Hughes and Ryan Henderson. And that's the half back line for Cross and half forward line. But we'll stick with it just a minute, Peter, and then we'll go inside to the full back line as well. The McCarthy Kiernan matchup, that's going to be one that no doubt that Aaron Kiernan will like to get a freer role, and if he's not +1, he will be offering an attacking option. Dan McCarthy's going to go toe-to-toe with him. Cumasky and Paul Hughes, the same. They like to drive forward, like to get in the score sheet. And I suppose the one I'm going to look out for here is Ryan Henderson. His role could be crucial here. If he drops off into that quarterback role that we've seen him play, Paul Hughes will have no issue pushing up on him and playing with an extra forward.
Yeah, and I could easily see that happening. I could see Paul Hughes really maybe be given a detail on Ryan and to follow him, because it'll not have gone unnoticed to Cross that much to several teams' detriment. Ryan's been able to sort of fall with the play and get his hands on a loose ball, and really is an excellent championship. The way he sees the game and plays with his head up and links play, but he's also still got a good engine in him, and he's been able to come late on plays as well, create overlaps, and just an extremely smart footballer. So it would be probably Cross bringing trouble to their own door if they were to let Ryan go as free as that. So I do expect whoever's picking him up, even if it's not Hughes, to be tracking him and tailing them. I think typically Cross would be happy for Ryan potentially to get squared up with Aaron Kiernan. that would probably suit Cross. But I can see McCarthy moving across on Darren Kiernan, and I suppose maybe being given like a double job where he look to give him some close attention when Cross are in possession. But McCarthy has shown in the championship that he's very, very, very capable young footballer as well, and he's got pace. His decision making's good. He's been a really good outlet in around that middle third on kickouts. How he's linking the play. Maybe he hasn't brought. I know he scored a goal against us the first day against Grange, but he maybe hasn't brought a lot more scores to the table. But his value in the team is clearly very important, and I see him moving across on the Kieran.
And then we'll move on to the full back line. I suppose we'll talk about Crossmaglen's spine, because I want to focus on Morgan and on Callum Comiskey. If Comiskey doesn't start, we're going to see Morgan in his usual centre-half back position, and possibly Paddy Studdard coming back onto Connor Turbot. I suppose Morgan, Peter, has been one of the standout players of the championship, and he's sort of drifted from his usual man-marking role. He picked up Stephen Campbell in the first round, but bar that, he hasn't really picked up any man-marking roles, and he's been trusted to drive forward and basically play the role Comiskey had been playing a couple of years ago for Crossmaglen and playing very effectively. If he comes back in, we're probably going to see Morgan go back into the full back line and pick up Turbo in his usual man-marking role.
Yeah, and I think probably what you said at the start there, the very fact that he did pick up Stephen Campbell in the first game might be a slight giveaway as to how they might use him on Sunday, and the fact that he's coming up against another top county standard player here, and I'm sure Cross will have analysed Connor and they'll just see how much ball they want to get to Connor Turbot, and Morgan will know his game from being at Armagh last year. They persisted with Morgan at 6 and they had Paul Hughes inside on Aidan Forker, and you'd have to ask if they could do it again. Would they've changed their matchups up? I think they probably might have. So it'll be it's just a hunch, but I'd be thinking if they can possibly free Morgan up, they'll get him back inside there to go toe to toe with Turbo. And again, Turbo, if he's afforded space, if the ball is kicked in early, he's going to fancy himself no matter who he's against. So for me, it would be in Cross's best interest to get their best possible man marker squared up with him as quickly as they can.
And just to finish the inside line, then we have Tony O'Callaghan. He's going to mark Aidan McCampbell, and Daniel McGee, who wears 10 but will drift in and play in that full forward line, probably picked up by Keown Dillon. McGee has maybe gone in under the radar a bit. He scored 2 goals against Ballymountain and set up a third one. So while Crossmaglen's, a lot of their attention is going to obviously be on Connor Turbot, there is dangerous forwards in that Clann attack that need to be watched as well, Peter.
Yeah, and McGee has got a good sort of poacher's instinct. He's been chipping away at scores regularly throughout the year. He actually would have been playing, as the main full forward player for them really when Turbo would be ruled out through Armagh commitments. So it's no surprise to see Sean playing close to goal and being a real threat. And as his 2 goals against Naab shown, he's a player that needs watched, and he seems to know where to be and how to get himself in the right positions to finish these chances. So, I would be feeling Dylan will probably pick him up. Dylan's been having a good championship. I thought against Clevey he was excellent. He's a physical player, but he can move the ground as well, and that probably is a matchup as well that would be worth watching out for.
So, Peter, hopefully we haven't wasted our time on some of our matchups. Will come through. We'll find out all on Sunday, obviously, when the 2 teams take the field. Peter, thanks very much for coming on and analysing both teams and telling us how you feel they're going to match up. Stephen, so we got Peter's views on all the matchups that we're likely to see come Sunday, and maybe, as I said to him, me and him have wasted our time and we mightn't see any of that happening, but I've asked you to pick out 2 players that are going to have a huge impact this week. There's so many on the team. There's so much quality on both sides that are going to be on the field. But we've spoke about one from each, and we'll start with Crossmaglen here. We're going to look at Cian McConville and the influence he has on the Crossmaglen team. Now, when we're looking at pivotal players from Crossmaglen, there's so many you can pick from. There's obviously the two O'Neills are standout. There's James Morgan, who will marshal that defence on Sunday. You have Aaron Kieran in there. But you've picked out Cian McConville and you want to have a look at him.
Yeah, as you say, two obvious players to pick out in Crossmaglen being probably the two O'Neills. But this year, I think Cian has really stood up. When Cian came into the senior team 3-4 years ago, he was a little bit green. He started off like a house on fire, but he kept carrying the ball into trouble, and he was kind of easy enough to get the ball off. Fast forward to this year, he gets the ball. He's bringing all players into the game. He's a better team player. He's setting up more as assists this year. He's scored 22 points, I think, this year. But I think he's setting up maybe 4 or 5 points a game too. So he's definitely been more of a team player coming in. Playing in corner forward. He stands out at the wing. He's very hard marked out. He's very pacey. So he is. But the thing I like about him this year, when he's not in the game, he takes himself out to the midfield area, gets on the ball, and when he gets the ball in there, he's a nice left foot. He can find passes into Finnegan, into Ocean, who was playing in there. So he's an all-round better player this year, I think. And you can just see that's having Crossmaglen attack more, you know. And he's not too afraid to follow his man back and help the defence out too. So all-round player this year. He's definitely a standout player for Crossmaglen this year, you know.
And as me and Peter were speaking, it's hard to know who's going to match up. If Shea Heffern's playing full back, he'll likely go on McConville. And I'm just thinking back to Brendan Hevron in last year's final, probably the only man in the last 2 years that has really got the better of Cian. He got it forward and got that goal in the first half. Is that one of the ways to solve the Cian McConville problem, is to put him on the back foot?
Yeah, as I said there, I think this year that he actually is running back and defending more. If we're playing Crossmaglen tomorrow, we have to have somebody tight on Cian because he's that dangerous. And as you said, the job Brenton done on him last year, I think it just goes under the radar a wee bit as how hard of a player is to mark down. But that, I think, in that final last year, the way he was dealt with, has probably added to his game a wee bit over the winter. And coming in this year, he's more of a team player. Last year, he had to side in a wee bit more, and he wasn't in the game, he had to stay in there. This year, he's coming out. He's getting involved in the game. He's never out of the game for too long. And as I say, he is joining in the defence. You can see him getting in. He actually has made a few tackles in every game this year and dispossessed the ball. So he's become an all-round better player, and he's learning from the previous years where he's made mistakes and then got the better of them. So year on year, he is getting better, and he's going to be harder to pin down. As you say, Shed probably will pick him up in there, but one player to mark Cian is going to be very hard. The way Clann Eireann playing there, they're going to have numbers in there, so someone's going to definitely have to get over and double up on Cian, because if Cian has an easy point and he thinks there's a goal on, he'll not go for that point. He'll put his head down and go for that goal. So Clann Eireann need to be very wary out there. That's another good thing about Cian. There's not too many players in teams nowadays sacrifice an easy point to go for a goal, and he'll always do it. You know, he sniffs that goal out very early, and if there's a chance to go for it, he'll go for it. So Clann Eireann nearly be in their toes there, you know.
And Clann Eireann, again, like Cross, have so many standout players. You can look at McCambridge and his role he played against Ballymcnell the last day. Turbo, obviously, and we've highlighted Heffron and the role he might be playing on Sunday. But we're going to talk about Kieran Kelly here. And during our matchups, me and Peter felt perhaps he's going to go to midfield and he's going to man mark Eireann. But obviously going to play his own game as well. It won't be as a defender man mark, and he'll be trying to put Eireann on the back foot as well. How impressive has he been? Obviously, he's been unbelievable for Armagh in his first couple of games this year. Goals in the Ulster Championship, goals. I think he got a goal against Donegal in the league as well. He's had a huge impact in leading Clann Eireann to this final. And how big can he be on Sunday now?
Yeah, for such a young player, his physique, he's huge for Clann Eireann. You can see he's probably not having the best championship, but he's a player that can't be left alone at all in the game. Against us, for example, he kind of wasn't in the game, but the last 15 minutes of the game, he kind of just took it over. He's very pacey at running with the ball from deep. He always takes his man on. He backs himself every time. And if he sees you 10 or 15 yards in behind the wide marking, he back himself to take him on. So Clann or Crossmaglen need to be aware of that. If he's lining somebody up, somebody needs to be there waiting on him again, because he's a very confident player. I don't think he doesn't jerk responsibility at all, so he doesn't. He's always making himself available for the ball, and you can see Clann Eireann are always looking for him. His decision making is very good on the ball, but he's definitely, as you say, come on for our man of the year, and he got goals. He hasn't got a goal this year in the championship, I don't think, so maybe Sunday's the time to thing. But I've already mentioned it before, he's definitely a player that I would throw in full forward for a wee while on Sunday, just to see what direction they get at, a few high balls in, because he's very, very good in the air, and he's a goal getter, you know. There's chances like Kane to cross, and the chances there for a goal, he'll go for it, you know. So having a player like that in your team is vital, you know.
And if he does go into that full forward role that we have seen, we're sort of thinking James Morgan's going to go back to Mark Turbo. Is there a height advantage there over somebody, say, a Tony O'Callaghan or a Kieran Dillon, maybe picking him up, that they're going to target this high ball? And if it doesn't work, as you say, TK can come back out the field and run at them with pace?
Yeah, I would say more likely it probably will be James goes and pick him up, but James, he's been about the block, doesn't matter what size he is and who he marks. He can use his body till everything, but Tiernan comes across to me kind of player that loves that there. He kind of loves that bit about the game, that bit of nastiness and that bit of aggression. So I think that'll only help him come on. So I would think that if Cross try to rough him up a wee bit in there or whatever, I think that'll only give him that wee bit of impetus to maybe play better if he's not in the game, you know what I mean? So he's one of those players that doesn't matter to get at him. I think he'll love that. He's kind of like Rain a wee bit. If you try to rattle him, it just lifts him a wee bit, you know. So I don't think Cross will kind of go at him that way. But James, if he does go in full forward, James will definitely go in and mark him, I think, because no disrespect to the other Crossmaglen, I don't think we'll be able to handle him in there, you know.
And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have Brian McClelland on from BMAC Performance Analysis to talk us through some of the analysis from the previous games that both teams have been involved in, and talk us through what we can expect to see come Sunday. Brian, you're very welcome on to the Sideline Night podcast, and you're going to talk us through some of the match analysis that we're going to see from Clann Eireann and Crossmaglen on Sunday. So we've looked at the Crossmaglen and Cleavey quarter-final clash in the Athletic Grounds, and Clann Eireann's semi-final win over Ballymacnabb as well.
Yep, that's the two games we decided to focus on this year, Sean. And I suppose just a word of warning beforehand. We did this last year, and we talked a lot about Tiernan McConville and Stephen Morris end up injured. We just hope the same fate doesn't be bestowed upon the boys playing this weekend, whoever we focus on.
Could be a couple of nervous boys maybe watching on this.
Yeah, indeed.
Could be a curse, but so as I said, we're going to focus on these two games and just talk us through what we're going to be highlighting, Brian, from the two teams.
So the first thing like we've noticed from Crossmaglen is their aggressive press, similar to like what Kerry would have done 2 years ago, what Dublin and Mayo have been doing, and what has been played at inter-county level. They really are going maybe 6 forwards, really getting their hands up in the attacking third, and then a bank of 4 across the middle. Obviously they have Stephen Morris and Rain O'Neill there, and then Aaron Kiernan and James Morgan organising and driving forward as a result. So that's what we look at for Crossmaglen. With Clann Eireann, they play like a counter-attacking style, and a lot of runners coming from deep, and they have shown again Ballymacnabb and Mahary the threat that they possess with Barry McCambridge, Connor McConville, and then Ryan Henderson at different stages coming from deep, and they've gotten goals. Barry got one again in Ballymacnabb from deep, and Tiernan Kelly, obviously, how could we forget, another big threat, powerful runner.
Of course, two Ballymacnabb men here talking. It's hard to talk about this, but we're going to start with Crossmaglen. Brian, I suppose just before we start, thanks very much to Armagh TV for letting us use their clips of the games. And so we're going to start with Crossmaglen, and we're going to see their press up on the Cleavey kickouts. We've seen it here that they press up, and as you described, Brian, the 6 forwards really putting a press on that kickout.
Yeah, so the first clip we have here is Cleavey's first kicker of the game. Crossmaglen have just got their opening point, and they've a bank of 3 in the full forward line and a bother bank of 3 in the half forward line. Shea McGill goes short to Conor O'Neill, and he's immediately put under pressure there by the forwards. Cian McConville working hard, getting pressure there on Lee Rice. Tony Kiernan coming in to help, and then the ball is picked up and recycled, and Crosser in the attack straight away. And if this ball had been went to chase, Oisin O'Neill is probably through there for a goal chance, Sean, early on in the game. Second kick out then, just following it. Again, Cleavey go a wee bit longer. It's not contained, but Aaron Kiernan picking up the break and the intent straight away to get forward and look for a score. And this time, Oisin O'Neill does get the ball and he chips it over the bar. So that real intent by Crossmaglen to win the ball and drive forward. So I suppose this next clip, we just want to highlight is a better illustration of the position of the players. So we've highlighted here with the circles, the bank at 3, a bank at 2, more or less setting a trap for Shea McGill maybe to play the ball into, and as soon as that's played in, those players are all swarming around the man on the ball. So you can see it here as we let it play. Cian McConville actually intercepts this one and it's played, and straight away that intent, Aaron Kiernan driving forward, Cian McConville sniffs the danger and just chips the ball over the bar. And there we can see even on the scoreboard, after 15 minutes it's 6-1, and we've highlighted 3 scores there that would have came off those kickouts.
So Brian, we're seeing that real aggressive press, and you talk about intent, that once Crossmaglen get the ball, they're straight for the goals, they're putting it inside to the likes of Cian McConville and Aaron Kiernan. You've highlighted him there, he has a role to play in that as well. He's pressing up and he's getting the attack started as soon as Crossmaglen win the ball. Yeah,
like Aaron, you maybe wouldn't say is in the press, he's actually orchestrating it from behind, and he is in as soon as the ball is won in Crossmaglen hands, he's the one coming off the shoulder to really drive forward, and no better man to be on the ball in that situation. Our last one here we see then a goal chance to Crossmaglen create off the back of this. Shea McGill has sort of no options, and he's sort of hurried into the kick, and he tries that pocket in the middle. Tony Kiernan wins this one and straight away pops the ball inside, and I think that's Darragh O'Callaghan with the goal chance, and then a second chance, and it went out for a 45. So again, Tony Kiernan involved that time, but it was that intent straight away to try and get the goal, and it really puts the danger, the threat then on the Cleavey goalkeeper at that stage.
I suppose looking at it from a Clann Eireann point of view now, the question is how do you deal with that? What will Owen Mulholland and the Clann Eireann defence do on Sunday? Is it a case of going long, trying to kick over the press, or how will Clann Eireann deal with this press from Crossmaglen?
Like I guess if we were just to look at those clips, you'd be saying, well, get the ball away from that area and get it as far away from there as possible. You don't want to be going short. You're only, even if you do win it, you're bringing that pressure on yourself. But we've looked here at the stats from that game in this Cleavey kickouts. So Cleavey had 21 kickouts in the game. They went long 10 times, so beyond the 45, and they actually only won 2 of those. So it was the better of 2 evils. Do they go short, retain it, and get the pressure, or do they go long and lost it essentially? And what we can see here even is the scores for and against, and Cleavey scored 4 points from their own kickouts, and 3 of those from going short, so they got more scores, but they conceded 1 which we showed, and there was another 2 which they won short, but they were turned over, which we showed, and Cross scored from them. So essentially from their short kickouts they scored 3 points but also conceded 3 points. But the opposite of that is they went long those 10 times and only scored 1 point from going long, and conceded 3. So they probably had a worse off result from going long. So it's a tricky one for Tommy Coleman and James Byrne to work out. What do you do as a Clann Eireann perspective this week? And we're just going to show here a couple of clips of that whenever Cleavey did go long, and it's really interesting. We talked about intent there to get the score, and I just want to highlight here, as Shea McGill's run out, it's from his body language, the Crossmaglen full forward line there can see that he's going to go long, so automatically they're running towards full forward as such. They're trying to make the pitch big, and you'll see the benefits this then as we let the clip run on. So Shea has a bit of a bad kick out, and the break is picked up there by I think it's Alan Farley. Play it back to James Morgan, bring a bit of width into the play here with Oisin O'Neill. And then you see the benefits of that that run by the full forward line to make the pitch as big as possible here. So Eireann Kieran plays a 1-2, creates the opening, and then if we just pause it here, we can see that space in the middle for them to run through. The pitch is big, they have players out wide that can come in the loop, and that's what they do. Play it out to Stephen Morris, and then it's Cialan Finnegan coming here in his right foot, and a great chance, and Cian McConville then follows that up, puts the pressure on the goalkeeper. It's recycled round, and he ends up with the score. So it's again just that being one step ahead, putting the full back line under pressure in a way, making them think, do they have to follow back into the full back, or could they maybe go and try and get under the break? Because as we know with Clann Eireann, that's the big asset to them, is their full back line and the defenders being able to drive forward. And on that clip, they didn't get the score directly from it, but from this one, they do. So we highlighted here, it's Finnegan sees the opportunity, is running in straight away. Tony Kiernan picks him out on a possible goal chance, but he decides to fist it over the bar. And if we just stop it there and look at the clock, Sean, it was 12-10, that made it 13-10 on the 25th minute of the second half, and in that period, Cross went from 10 all to 10 each till 15-10, and that's where they really turned the screw. So Cleavey started the game going short, and they were sort of lambasted for it, and they ended the game going long, and they ended up suffered by it. So it really is a conundrum for Clann Eireann on Sunday.
And I suppose we're going to look at Clann Eireann then next, Brian, and we're going to look at their runners, and you mentioned a few of them earlier. You've Barry McCambridge, you've Tiernan Kelly, Conor McConville, all running from deep, and powerful runners, and they're going to hope breaking through that press, that when they do go long, and if they win the break, that they can push past that Crossmaglen press. And there's going to be room inside. We've spoke about that at length on this podcast, that Crossmaglen will go man to man, they will give you space inside. And we're going to highlight that a couple of the times against Ballymcnabb, how these runners, the likes of McConville, Kelly and Cambridge, all broke through the defence and ran into that space and created goal chances. Yeah,
and the thing with these, Sean, and we see it here from the first clip, is like this is no score in the game, and this is the 3rd minute, and at this stage, you wouldn't think that Clann Eireann are going to score a goal from here, and this is where Crossmaglen need to be aware, and this is how Clann Eireann are dangerous, is that the runners start from deep and they have to be stopped at source. So the ball was played in, and Clann Eireann turned it over, and I just want to highlight Conor McConville, more or less in the corner back position there, back defending, doing his role, tracking runner, and it's here as Clann Eireann then start to come out with the ball with Mulholland, playing about with it, by now putting a slight bit of pressure just to delay them. But you can just see now as Conor McConville comes in the screen, he's unmarked, he's untracked, and he's able then to get the run of the pitch. And now they're getting the runners off the shoulder. And then if we highlight on the left wing there now is Tiernan Kelly. He had a vital year with Armagh, and he knows with Conor Turbot that he likes to win the ball on that side, and he anticipates that, and he just gets the run on the corner back, and then it's a goal chance out of nothing. And that really comes from that run from Conor McConville from deep, and then Tiernan Kelly picking up the space and then injecting that bit of pace.
And we're going to see here again on the kick out for Clann Eireann, that pace that we're talking about, and we've spoke about it at length too about Clann Eireann, that their pace and their runners, but you're going to show us again here that on this long kick out that we're talking that we might see from Clann Eireann, how if they win the break or win the ball clean, how they're going to then transition into their attack.
Yeah, so like Clann Eireann do like to go long, and they'll go to Conor McConville and Bell in the middle of the field, and this time this clip here, Conor McConville is the target, but you can see as he jumps, both Dan McCarthy and Tiernan Kelly are expecting the break. They're looking, it's like that Ryan McHugh kick out for Donegal, they're looking to get in under it, plenty of pace, and as it breaks favourably for Dan McCarthy. And there he's away, and Tiernan Kelly's one step ahead, and he's run into open ground. It's a possible goal chance. Now Ballymcnabb do defend it very well, close down the opportunity, and even as Dan McCarthy takes that shot, it's a great block. But you can see Tiernan Kelly and Conor Turbot on the back post. If it was popped across, it was not a goal chance by them simply following their run. So that is an opportunity for Clann Eireann to go long on the kickouts, and if they break that press, I'd imagine that spaces like we've seen here will be there for them to exploit.
And again, we're going to see, we've spoke about McConville and Kelly. we haven't really spoke about Barry McCambridge yet, and obviously he had such a massive role to play in the semi-final, and probably the man of the match. He scored 1-1. I'm going to look at his goal here now, and again, it's that late runner, isn't it, on that power through the middle and cutting into the space.
Yeah, so the ball has been turned over, and again, Mulholland coming out with the ball and plays it to the corner back. And although Clann Eireann are like a running team, they will look to kick as well. So the kick is up long, up the wing, and you can see Barry McCambridge is already eyeing up the space ahead of him. And it's a great mark by McGee, and there Barry McCambridge was on track, and he tucks it very, very, very well.
And you're saying about they like to kick the ball as well. Another runner off their shoulder, but is that quarterback role that Ryan Henderson plays, and we're going to have a look at it. We spoke about him before, that this nearly free role, and Peter Nugent said on our matchups segment that he feels maybe Paul Hughes is going to be assigned to Ryan Henderson, so when he does push back, Crossmaglen can push up and nearly play it with a 7th attacker. But you're going to see us show us Henderson's role here, playing that QB sort of role. Yeah,
so like the way I'd sort of describe it, early in the game, in both the Barnard game and when in this game against Mahari, Ryan Henderson would have played back. He would have knitted the play, and he wasn't really much of a threat going forward, but he was sort of linking everything. But as the game went on in the closer stages, that's when he came to the fore. He started to drive on and come off the shoulder, and you can see it in this clip here. This is in the second half. He's unmarked. Mahari are defending a little bit deep, and there he's coming, number 11, off the shoulder, breaks through the space, and shot with the left foot. Under no pressure, and he did that. He missed this one, but he did it before. He had 2 shots like that in that game, and that's what he will do. And he did it again by now too late in the game. Is that a bit of experience, a bit of know-how, a player that you would want on the ball if it's coming into the closest stages, and Clann Eireann are in with a shout of winning this game.
And we're going to see now, you said about them liking to kick the ball as well. They're probably known better as a running team.
Yeah, in this Barnard game, they had 36 attacks in total. 22 of those were by they carried the ball, and 11 of those were where they actually kicked it. So there was like a double the amount of ball carrying. So like to retain the ball. Whereas Crossmaglen would be more balanced. They against Killeavy, they had 19 attacks that were kicked and 18 that were ball carried. So they have an even balance, but they prefer to kick. So. On this occasion, we're going to look at that kicking game. So the ball was turned over deep in the full back line. It was touched on the ground, and Barry McCambridge with the ball in his hand, and he's just waiting for them to get up the pitch to allow that kick. And he spots Conor McConville, and with a 70 metre kick to Conor McConville, without ball hitting the ground, there in the top of the D to Conor Turbot, the man that you want, taking the mark, and it's probably the score of the championship, Sean.
That's the sort of score, Brian, that if Crossmaglen were doing that, we would be singing their praises.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. That's the one that we would maybe expect Crossmaglen to see, and maybe Clann Eireann haven't got that praise for that, but that for me, that's the score of the championship there.
Yeah, and we no doubt will see both teams kicking a lot during Sunday's game, and we're going to see that runners and the hard press and everything we've covered there. Brian, thanks very much for coming on and showing us that and giving us the analysis of what we might see on Sunday. And we'll head back over to Stephen now, and we'll get our predictions for Sunday's game. Stephen, we're getting near the end of our podcast. I suppose something I just want to talk about is what happens with whatever happens on Sunday. What does it mean for Armagh club football? Because there is this notion out there that there is this feeling that Crossmaglen's dominance isn't as strong as it used to be, and it obviously isn't as strong as it used to be. And coming into the championship, you felt that there was going to be 5 or 6 teams that could contest with Crossmaglen. If they win on Sunday, this is going to be their obviously their 4th final in a row, but their 3rd win in 4 years, which would signal a sign of dominance. While on the flip side, if Clann Eireann win, then it does look like Armagh club football is strong because it's 4 different winners in 5 years. So how do you sum this up? What will Armagh club football look like come 4:30 on Sunday evening?
I don't think whoever wins on Sunday, I don't think it's, as you say, if Clann Eireann do win, it'll be the 4th different winner in 5 years. That can only help the county team going forward. It's better the more teams kind of are involved and be competitive in the senior championship, we only have the county team. If Cross win, you said 3 cups in 4 years, does kind of point towards that they're maybe starting to dominate the football again, but they're not dominating the games like they did back in the early days. But I definitely think between Cross, ourselves, Harps, Nab, Clevie, Ballymacnab, Clann Eireann, there's definitely a competitive championship there, and any one of them 5-6 teams any year coming now chance. So it's more competitive, but at the same time you still have to go out and stop the same teams from getting to finals, same teams from winning it. So it's up to the rest of us to maybe put an end to Cross winning if they're doing something, you know. But that's only good for football, Armagh football, you know.
Yeah, and that has maybe helped Armagh come on a wee bit. We've seen them obviously reach Division 1 and not only reach it, but maintain their Division 1 status. But Stefan, we finish every podcast, of course, with our predictions. We have history really coming up against tradition. Maybe you could call this Clann Eireann coming in. We spoke about how long it's been since they've reached the county final, but we've been nearly expecting them to at some stage reach this county final. And certainly over the next 5 or 10 years, you would feel if they don't win on Sunday, they're going to get one at some stage, and maybe Sunday's just the first stepping stone towards that. Crossmaglen obviously have no fear. They're a wounded animal coming into this championship, having lost the final last year, the first final they've lost since 1982. So they're not going to want to do 2 in a row defeats. It's difficult to call. I would say the majority of people are going to tip Crossmaglen, and I feel like I'm going to be part of that as well. I think that Clann Eireann have a huge chance here. I really think they can put it up to Crossmaglen. I think if they get their matchups right all over the field, that they have enough pace and enough forward quality to trouble Crossmaglen. But maybe that wee bit of experience, and we spoke about the Madden game earlier on, that maybe let Madden down. It maybe let Clevie down as well when the game was there to be won. I know they had the red cards as well, obviously, but the experience of winning finals will obviously help Crossmaglen, and Clann Eireann just don't have that at the minute. They don't have the experience of a final, never mind winning it. So I think I'm going to go with Crossmaglen. How do you see it going, Stefan?
As you said, there is actually pressure on Crossmaglen here. It's just not a matter of showing up. To lose last year's final and to go in this year, there is pressure on them. They don't want to be losing another final to another Armagh team. Clann Eireann, I see if Clann Eireann do really pump the ball in high to Crossmaglen early and do get success at it, and with the pace they have in that Clann Eireann team, it's definitely Crossmaglen are not going to have their whole go away. But getting to a final, experiencing county final day in Armagh, and being there for the first time against a team who has the experience of being there year in year out is definitely going to play a factor. And for not to be a final in 53 years, there's too much of a question mark around how Clann Eireann is going to handle it on the day. I can see Crossmaglen maybe coming out of this game maybe 5-6 points winners, but it won't be as handy. I can see Clann Eireann really sticking with them, getting off to a good start, and if a few things go their way in the second half, who knows what can happen. But experience is everything in these games. And for Clann Eireann not to be in a final before, although they've been in the 21 minor finals, as I said before, senior finals a different ball game, and for them not to have any experience in a final going in Sunday is massive. But it'll be a competitive game, I'd say, up until about 45 minutes a game, and then Crossmaglen just down the home straight will just notch on 5 or 6 points, and they'll end up winning the championship, I think.
And Stefan, just to finish up, I'm just thinking in terms of an experience for Clann Eireann. Your first final came against Cullyhanna in 2016, and obviously both sides were feeling the same emotions. Cullyhanna had the experience of getting to finals, but they hadn't won one, and obviously that was your first win as well. Coming into your second final, it was your first against Crossmaglen. Does facing Crossmaglen in the final add that wee bit more? Maybe it's pressure, maybe it's excitement. It adds a wee bit more, but doesn't it?
I'm glad I forgot Harps, so I haven't mentioned that. No, against Cross, it was. I think us and Cross were on a collision course to be in the final for maybe 6-7 years. We had been playing Cross in 2012, only for 2 years. We had Cross had beat us in about 6 or 7 championship matches. So we knew one day we were going to play them in the final, and then when it finally happened last year, there wasn't one bit of nervous energy about the place. It was it's about time this match has happened. So we were going in there fully confident, as probably they were, and we knew we had that big performance in us. But it's definitely the experience. If that was our first final, who knows what could have happened? It could have been a different experiences, sleepless nights. But we knew the experience we had playing the 2 previous finals, and especially the loss in 2017, that nobody was going to beat us in the next final we got to, because of what happened in the one we were beating. So that experience, we drew on it, and going into that match last year against Cross, didn't make it exciting against who the opposition was, because probably always the one that beat us that many championship matches. But it definitely added there. If you want to play a county final game, you want it to be Crossmaglen in the final, so nobody can throw it up at you in years to come, but you never get across the final. So that was one of the big things for us going into the game last year,
And I'm sure Clann Eireann are going to feel that same excitement, not only reaching a final, but getting the chance to play Crossmaglen, and they'll hope beat them as well. Stephen, thanks very much for coming on and giving us your thoughts, and thanks to Peter Nugent and Brian McClelland from BMAC Performance Analysis for helping out with the podcast today and giving us a perfect preview for what should be an exciting game. Keep voting for your player of the week. That was announced. The team of the week was announced on Wednesday, so keep voting for who you feel should win the player of the week to win a player fit jersey. And Stefan, once again, thanks for coming on, and we look forward to what should be an exciting day, an exciting game on Sunday.
Well, Sean, thanks for having me again.